Well, welcome back. And what we are going to do now in lesson 9 is look at personal child development. So what is happening actually to the child sort of within their own development. Okay, so basically we've looked at physical and biological development. We've looked at cognitive development with Piaget, Case, Vygotsky. We're going to look at personal and psychosocial, and then we'll finish off with social and moral. These are, again, those pillars of development that you want to always keep in mind for your upcoming assignment, but ultimately for your life as a teacher, because you need to have an idea of why kids are doing what they're doing and why, so we can be the most amazing and inspirational teacher that we can ultimately be. Okay, here we go. We're going to look first at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's also called, this is also generally called psychosocial development. So if we look at these words, psycho means a sense of self. This is your sense of self. Social, you can probably figure that out, is the quality of relationships in one's life. And then if we're looking specifically at psychosocial development, this is the extent to which one's social development thrives or flounders. Of course, there's a theory, and Maslow is credited with this particular hierarchy of needs. So he would say that we have to fulfill these stages before we can progress up the hierarchy. So if we looked at physiological needs, that would mean that our children who come into our classrooms, they would need to have eaten breakfast, they would need to be warm, and they would need to know that they are physically safe in that space. Think about if a child does not feel physiologically supported or fulfilled. So if a kid is, okay, just think about yourself. If you are hungry right now during this lecture, what are you thinking about? Food, right? You're thinking about food. And so that's why there are so many breakfast programs, is because kids who come into classrooms and are hungry, they can't learn math skills, or they can't read a book because they're going, I'm so hungry, I need some food. Okay, so we have to fulfill that need right away. Kids also have to feel safe. They have to feel psychologically safe. So if they are bullied, all they're worried about is, how am I not going to get bullied? Right? I'm not going to go sharpen my pencil because I might get caught in a corner. So again, think about, we're asking kids to then learn all these like math concepts and high level abstract thinking when they are worried about getting beaten up in the corner. Okay, so that's safety. Then we move up into love and belonging. All of us want to belong. We all want to walk into a classroom and feel like we belong. Lots of kids don't. And so they get stalled in their development of who they are and their social interaction. They get stalled there because they don't feel like they belong. Then we go higher up. We have self-esteem. This is where we start to feel sort of good in our own skin, and self-actualization is when we can actually we can sort of get out of our own self and start to then think about the greater good. But it's really interesting because a lot of our schools, especially in lower socioeconomic areas, have breakfast programs because they know that they have to fulfill that physiological need, or else the rest of the teaching is not going to have any impact. Okay, so let's go on to personal child development, fundamental psychological needs. So our kids need to have these three aspects. Basically, there needs to be attention to these three aspects, and we need to, as teachers, be helping them to achieve these three aspects. So self-worth is basically a person's sense that he or she is a competent individual who is capable of actually overcoming the challenges and that they can actually live adequately in their environment. Okay, so that's their self-worth. They actually really believe that they can do it. They want to be autonomous, and they want to have a sense of self-determination. So autonomous is they want to control their day-to-day actions, and they want to basically have overall direction in their life. So if they're feeling totally controlled at every step, they don't develop fully as an individual. And they want that social connectivity. So all individuals, whether young or old, we all have a fundamental desire to be socially interacted and connected. So how we're viewed by others, either positively or negatively, is really one of the most important motivators of our actions. Okay, so these needs, these guys here, we keep redefining them throughout our entire lives. So we don't kind of go, yep, got self-worth, good, yep, I'm a separate human being, and yep, I got good friends. We keep redefining these, and so as a child, as a teacher of children, we need to know that they are constantly going through redefining these aspects. Okay, so let's talk about motivation. Oh, where's my mouse now? Oh, there it is. Let's talk about motivation. Is satisfying these three internal needs, these self-worth, autonomous, social connectivity, leads to a motivational structure that forces us to keep setting goals and then trying to reach them. Okay, so basically this process of trying to attain these goals is who we are as individuals, which ultimately leads to self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is our belief in our own ability that we can actually achieve some things in our life. That's so basically, an example of self-efficacy is when you face a challenge, do you feel like you can rise to that challenge and actually accomplish it, or do you just give up in defeat? That's self-efficacy. Okay. Also, we want our children to be thinking, developing an emotional effect, which is basically, this describes a broad category of emotions that people bring to bear on whatever they are doing, and basically their emotional responses that occur either to themselves or others. So it's basically an emotional reaction. And temperament is partly nature, partly nurture. It's some people say you have a really calm temperament or you have a very hyper temperament. That is that's a bit of nature and nurture together, and it's again why some of us end up in a puddle when we are faced with a challenge, and others will just rise to it. And the concept of self-esteem, this is our emotional judgment of ourselves, and our self-concept is our cognitive understanding of who we are. So again, we need to, as we're teaching, we need to be thinking about, where are these kids at in their own self-esteem? Where are they at in their own temperament? Why is Sarah reacting this way, and why is Bob reacting this way, right? Again, we need to have a sense. And if we find in our classrooms that these basic personal goals are thwarted, we're going to have issues in the classroom. We have to find ways to encourage these fundamental psychological needs to be met. Okay, there we go. Let's jump into, I hope you enjoyed. I thought the chapter reading was pretty nice and condensed, and hopefully you've read that, because I'm just going to sort of expand on the basis of this. So basically, Erikson's psychosocial, remember, psycho meaning self, social meaning interactions. So we're looking at what we end up believing about ourselves because of our interactions with other people. Okay, so Erikson has a stage theory. Of course, there's always a theory. This would be, oh, actually, sorry, I want to go back just before we jump into the theories. I wanted to read an interesting fact on Erikson. So Erik Erikson is possibly the best known of Sigmund Freud's many followers. So you've probably heard of Freud. He grew up in Europe and spent his young adult life under the direction of Freud. In 1933, when Hitler rose to power in Germany, Erikson emigrated to the United States and began teaching at Harvard University. His clinical work and studies were based on children, college students, victims of combat fatigue during World War II, civil rights workers, and American indigenous peoples. It was these studies which led Erikson to believe that Freud misjudged some important dimensions of human development. Okay, so I think that's just kind of cool to know that he was a student of Sigmund Freud. Okay, so Erikson would say that the stage theory is universal. It doesn't matter what culture. It's a universal, everybody has to go through these stages. It's invariant, which means that it doesn't vary from child to child, from culture to culture. It is, you go through these stages, and it's actually age related. So it's connected to sort of the biological age. He has 8 stages. There's just been a 9th added, so it's the core is 8 stages with the added 9th, and because we are finding that people are living longer, so Erikson had to address the concept that we are living longer in there. And it spans the entire lifespan of human life. Each stage reflects a crisis that the individual needs to resolve. If they don't have to resolve it, but they should resolve it, because if not, it will come back in later life, and we're going to get into that. And resolution of conflicts promotes healthy development. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all these, but this is just a nice little synopsis. So we have, I'm just going to get my pencil back here. Birth to 2 is trust versus mistrust. 2 to 4. Autonomy versus shame. 4 to 6, initiative versus guilt. 6 to 12, industry versus inferiority. 12 to 18, identity versus role confusion. 18 to 40, intimacy versus isolation. 40 to 65, generativity versus stagnation. And 65 to death is integrity versus despair. Okay, so what we're going to do now is actually, I'm just going to give you a little bit more information before we jump into the specifics of each of these stages. Each stage is a turning point. So it's a crucial period in which a student moves in either direction of gaining greater strength in who they are or greater vulnerability and basically maladjustment in who they are. Each turning point is related to all the other 7. So if you do not completely resolve the initiative versus guilt phase, you obviously biologically continue to get older, but you actually may be kind of still stuck here in how you view yourself. Super interesting. Okay, a positive resolution at one stage increases in the individual's strength in who they believe they are, and a negative resolution again will have a negative effect later on in life. And you must work through each of the stages, or else the unresolved issue will appear in the future. Okay, if you kind of look at stages 1 through 4 as like childhood, and then 5 through 8 and ultimately 9 as more early adulthood and adulthood. It kind of just maybe helps you to think of it that way. Okay, let us now, oh yeah, this is going to be super fun. So I am going in Collaborate. What you're going to do is you're going to focus on one of these stages. And again, I've put the list under lesson 8 and 9 Collaborate groups. I think that's what it's called. So look there. So you're going to focus on one of these. And then what you're going to do is in Collaborate time, you're going to get together and you're going to share your cameras. And then you're going to actually create a vision. A vision with the 4 of you in Collaborate to depict the stage. So maybe you're doing the stage where it's initiative versus guilt, and maybe one person is like, "Yay, I did it," and the other person is feeling sad. Okay, so I want you to actually visually, with your body, with your face, is actually display your understanding of the particular stage that I've assigned to you. Okay, then what you're going to do is you're going to screenshot it. So while you're in Collaborate, in next class, what you're going to do is you're going to screenshot it, and then you're going to send it to me by email, and you're going to put the stage in the subject box so that when I get it, I know what stage you are depicting, and then I will compile them and we'll have a look at them next time we're together. Okay, so I'll re-explain this in Collaborate, but I want you to be thinking about what you might think you can do to show in our little boxes your understanding of the particular stage. Okay, this is my cognitive constructivist bent. See, starting to figure it out, as well as my socialist constructivist bent. Okay, here we go. So let us now have a look. I'm on my Mac, so I have to do this at the particular stages. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop the video, and then I'm going to come back with it all set up for you nicely. Okay, bye-bye.